Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Legacy Leaders. Today, I am joined with Elizabeth Schuster from Sustainable Economies. She is, as I would say from my Boston roots, wicked smart. She is somebody that does economics for a living. So I'm going to give her a chance to kind of explain what she does as a business, and then we'll get into some of the nuances as far as challenges and lessons learned. But before we get into all that, I want the microphone and camera to be yours, Elizabeth. Tell us your story, what it is that you do, and how well you do it. So people love working with you. So please tell us all about it.
I do think I have to go back to my roots of when I first got into this field so people understand the evolution of how I arrived here. So it was when I was, let's see, I had just graduated from college and I wanted to be a Peace Corps volunteer. And so I was assigned to a rural village in Honduras. And I had majored in sustainability in college, and so they assigned me to be a natural resources volunteer. And so I was supposed to help this village plant trees, and the idea was it was supposed to stop erosion and help filter the water so it would be cleaner water quality in their rivers. And so I spent about a year working with this rural village in Honduras, and we were making no progress. I mean, maybe we had planted 8 trees in a year, and I realized that I was going to have to approach this differently. So I started talking to people. I made it a goal to visit every house in the village, and I talked to all the farmers and I asked them what they cared about and what they were doing. And I quickly realized that farmers were making really hard choices like, do I buy my kids shoes or do I buy myself a hoe for the next harvest? And so they were not thinking about planting trees. Well, it turns out that if you get certified organic for your coffee production, you get a higher market price, and that certified organic coffee does better with shade grown coffee. And
Oh,
so we found this win-win where I helped the farmers create a co-op, get certified organic, increase their market price, and they planted trees in their shade grown coffee, which then filtered the water and improved water quality. And so that was how I came to this field, is realizing that we could have these win-wins for the economy and nature. And so, I've had a lot of different jobs over the years. I've worked in the private sector, in manufacturing and supply chain management. I've worked as an academic researcher. I've worked for a nonprofit. And for the past 6 years, I've been running my consulting firm, which helps organizations gain clarity and have more impact through strategic planning, community engagement, and economics research.
love it. Okay. So say it again. They gain clarity with planning. What were the three?
Strategic planning, community engagement, and basically applied economics research, like
Okay.
useful data that actually helps you make decisions.
Okay. So one of the things I really liked what you said earlier, and I think it rings true for anybody, and that is you took from your experience with the Peace Corps, you took what was known by just about everybody. And you compared it to what could be learned by simply asking questions and diving into a situation or problem to uncover, peel back the onion a little bit with every opportunity to learn, oh, this is what everybody knows to be true. But if we layer on all these different data points, wow, there's so much more. There's a different picture here than what everybody thought before. And if that is, Elizabeth, a brief description about what you do, you're going to be successful because that's what every business needs, right? Is understanding the baseline and then how do we change the perspective to get a better angle on what's best for the business. So kudos to you. That's pretty cool. So you've been doing this for how long now?
6 years for
Okay.
this version of the business. I mean, I've been in this field for 25 years, but 6 years in this business.
Okay. So over the 6 years, I know you've had to have seen that the ebb and flow of business. You've seen the goods and the bads. What is it that you would say is one of the bigger challenges, Elizabeth, that you have faced that kind of brought you, whoa, okay, now I got to take a step back, know what I know, and then what can I learn on top of it? What would you say is a really good challenge that you faced over the last 6 years building this business?
Well, I think the first challenge I had to overcome is I didn't see myself as an entrepreneur. I came out of the
Okay.
nonprofit world and I saw myself as someone still helping nonprofits and using that same mentality. And so the first few years when I wasn't thinking about it like a business, I think it was harder to see growth. I kind of had to lean into this idea basically, I had an aha moment that even though I didn't self-define as entrepreneurial, I realized that every job I had ever had almost, I was the first person in that job. And I wrote my own job description. And I realized that I had always been entrepreneurial, even when I was in nonprofits, because I was always creating something out of nothing. So
Okay.
I think that was crucial is to switch that mindset to I have to think about this like a business. I have to think about it like business development in a different way than I had before. And I think the second thing I will say is a lot of the business coaches and the business experts out there that I was hearing were really talking about specific models, either entrepreneurialism for brick and mortar or for
Mhm.
manufacturing or for B2C. And with me working just with nonprofits generally, I have a very different business model. I mean, I often have only 5 clients a year. So I have a
Mhm.
very, very, very long business development cycle. I have very deep relationships with my clients, and there's a need for that deep trust and that deep relationship. And so I also struggled with finding entrepreneurial advice from someone who understood my business model because it was a little different than others I was talking to.
Okay, so when you talk to a coach or a mentor, somebody that's trying to help you through that, what's some of the advice that they've been given or they've given you that makes the most sense because you're different, right? You've got a long life cycle for client relationships, a long cycle to go from first introduction to now we're working together. What is some of the best advice you've picked up over the years?
Well, maybe I can start with the bad advice that
Okay.
just starting with the typical marketing lens, or, it's trendy to be like, oh, be a thought leader. Like in my field, you can't self-name yourself a thought leader. You have to be called a thought leader by others in your field. So I really had to. I moved from New Jersey, where I had all my professional networks, to Ohio when I started my business. So I had to start from scratch building my network. And I had to figure out where people doing sustainability work were hanging out. And I had to build relationships with those people in person. And I had to be invited to present at their conferences. And I had to build credibility slowly over time. I do post on LinkedIn, I do use some more conventional marketing channels, but it really has to be supplemented with personal in-person opportunities where I'm invited and can build my own credibility.
Well, I think you nailed it too. Whether the credibility comes with a personal presentation in front of an audience or your presence online, people have to know that you're one, authentic in what you're saying because you believe it and there's a passion there, right? And I think that's inherent with what you do, just based on your description of what happened in the Peace Corps, right? There's an inherent drive to make sure things are better. But the credibility has to be there. You have to know what you're doing. You have to know what you're talking about. And the way you've described, sustainable economies, it's all about bringing data to lay on top of what's already known so we can have a different perspective. So that credibility, I wouldn't say it's easy to gain. I would imagine it's easy to lose if you do the wrong thing. Over the years, how did you build that credibility? Is it sheer pounding the pavement, knocking on doors, getting yourself in front of an audience? What was it that really drove that built credibility for you?
Well, I did work in nonprofits in the
Okay.
conservation space. So I had to start by leveraging real examples of my past research and past experiences when I was in-house in nonprofits,
Okay.
um, building up my rapport of case studies. I think, here, let me pause. I think actually, paradoxically, one of the best things I can do to build credibility is whenever I go into a project, whether it's a research project or a strategic planning project, I spend a lot of time talking about learning. I'm
Okay.
here to learn, and let's create a space where everyone's here to learn. So, there are a few specific things we do. On almost every project I have, we don't make any decisions for the first 3 months. So, we really preserve the first 3 months for background research, talking to stakeholders, and gaining information so we can understand a wide variety of perspectives before any decisions are made. And the second thing is, in order to model open mindedness, I'm very forthcoming when I'm wrong. If I
Okay.
say, sometimes I do speak too quickly and I say, oh my gosh, we should do this. And the client's like, actually, we've tried that before. It doesn't work for our context because of A, B, and C. I will be the first to say, thank you for bringing that to my attention. Your idea makes a lot of sense. Let's go with that, with the hopes that I am actually now creating a culture in our team that
Yeah.
everybody will question their decisions and be open-minded to new perspectives.
That alone I like. And there's an immediate reaction to your credibility when you're the one that stands in the front of the room and says, I own this. This was my decision. This is what I thought. So I own my decision. I am accountable for my actions and I'm responsible for the outcome. That alone is going to build your credibility in an instant because people realize, oh, not only is this person upfront and humble enough to admit when they were wrong, but here are the reasons why they're wrong and they explain it. This must be an open forum for everybody to be willing to take risks, knowing not that there's always going to be a safety net, but knowing there's a place to comfortably land if it doesn't go right, because there's a community of people here, led by Elizabeth at the top, that says it's okay to be wrong, but let's drive to be right. And I think that's really how you build credibility. So I thank you for sharing that because most people, with all due respect, have a real hard time being humble enough to say they're owning something or accountable for the situation. They have a tendency to kind of back away from it. And when you're leading a group of people, whether it's through a discovery phase that you're going through on a project, or you're the homeowner, or excuse me, the business owner, you need to step into that space and be somebody that owns the situation. So thank you for sharing it. I think it's a brilliant way of building credibility. So thanks.
Oh, well, thank you for capturing it so nicely.
That's okay. I mean, this is the kind of stuff I think most business owners have a real challenge with because they're cocooned in the idea it's my business, I have to always be right, and the people that follow me are going to follow me because I'm always right. And what they realize is over the course of time, if you're always right, I can never be right. And if you're always right, what's my level of contribution going to be if I everything I do, it doesn't matter because you're always the one that's right or wrong. When you find a pathway for people to contribute, all they want to do is contribute because they see it as a community of decisions, not just an authoritarian that comes down and says this is what we're doing and why. The other thing I wanted to touch base on, and I think it's important for you to, or for the audience to know, you said one of the things that builds my credibility is I'm willing to learn and I am not going to make a decision until I know enough information to make that decision. You made the comment of 3 months. I don't know if every decision in every business needs 3 months, right? But what I want people to be comfortable with is when you make decisions, don't make them on a whim, make them with some level of data or some level of information that makes it be known that was the right decision and the reason why. And if the decision comes out to be wrong, all right, let's go back and look at our data. What was about the data that we said yes to, and what did we miss that we should have known before we said yes? Maybe it would have told us no. So there's that continual loop of we are going to learn what we can, make the decision, and then assess later. Okay, this is where we went wrong. Perfect. Let's go back and assess and refix. I think that's an important way of building not only credibility, but a really good small business or big business, right? I had a boss one time, CEO of the medical device company I work for, and we sat down with him and he said, if I have 10 decisions to make today, and you give me all the information I need to make those 10 decisions, and I make eight of them and eight of them are good, I can live with the two bad ones. What do you think about something like that? Because that's a different management style.
Oh, well, yeah. In the space I'm working in, some people call these wicked problems, and wicked problems are problems that are hard to even define, never mind hard to solve. So it can be things like food security or
Yeah.
climate change can be wicked problems. And so, that's why we have to bring this learning lens to it, because if these problems were easy, they would already be solved. So
Okay.
yes, we have to go into it knowing that we're not going to get it perfect. So I think a few things to add and build on what you're saying. One is the transparency lens is really important. So a lot of my projects, the outcome, whether it's a strategic plan with goals or it's a data assessment, the outcome is just the deliverable is just as important as the process, and the process is always about building trust and helping teams collaborate with each other better. And so, for the type of projects I do, we always have transparency around decisions. In fact, most of our projects, we use consensus for decisions, and we always make decisions in front of the full team so everyone can understand how the data is being interpreted. The other piece is we always use a mix of qualitative and quantitative data. So, quantitative data is the numbers that you think of, and then the qualitative data comes from the communities and the staff and the donors and the community partners. Now, I can quantify qualitative data because I look at frequencies. If I do 6 focus groups and we end up talking to
Right.
150 people, I can quantify the themes that come up most frequency. So there's a way to bring a little more rigor to it. But at the end of the day, the best way to approach this is you have these points where you connect around the data. You say, what are we learning from the data? What's missing? What are the unknowns? And then you make a decision based on what you have. And I sound like a broken record. I use the word iterative so much, but it is iterative. And then each round you get more data and it gets better quality and you make better decisions. It's just how it works.
Well, you made the process pretty. I hate to use the word transparent, but you make the process really work for you because it is so transparent, right? I like what you said is the outcome is a deliverable of the process, and the process is a collection of trust and collaboration. Decisions are made in a community environment with all the data being presented, and it's a combination of qualitative and quantitative. So you get the people and you get the data, numbers, whatever, together. So now you have this tapestry of information you can use. All right, this is the direction we're going to go. And one thing you made comment to, you're trying to solve problems that haven't been solved yet. So getting all the information available for this isn't like, let's just Google it, right? There's a lot more to it. So yeah, you need your 3 months to get more discovery. But I envision this, and I hate to use any other word because that's what's in my mind, a tapestry of qualitative and quantitative. All this stuff is screaming at you. And as a group community that's been working on the project, you're absorbing it all. This is what I think. And then you talk about it, and then a decision is made. Not for nothing, but you just described a really good operating board of directors. You just described a really good leadership team. You just described how every business should be running, right? Take all of the feedback, figure out what you need to do, and make a decision. I think you solved a lot of problems today. That's outstanding.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, what you're touching on is what I've learned through this process is that I thought I was doing strategic planning. I thought I was assessing the impact of your program and just talking to communities. But actually, what we're doing is we're talking about organizational governance and we're creating
Mhm.
habits around collaborative processes that are based on data. We're building culture, we're leaning into our values. And so I've had to learn a lot about organizational culture and governance because this work begs that I know more about that.
And I think you and I talked about this before. One of the bigger challenges that every business has is they fail to talk about their culture. They fail to talk about their values, their vision, their mission for why they exist. And then they struggle to figure out why people don't want to work with them, or the people that work with them aren't necessarily aligned with what we're trying to do. It's one of the most important things a business can do is get their vision and mission stated out, understand what their values are. What do you stand for as a company, and what will you not stand for, which is just as important. And I love the idea that not that you were forced into it, but that you iterated yourself into understanding there's more to what I do. It's actually this whole business that I need to pay attention to, right? And that's a good piece for you because if you're having your own business and you're trying to one, solve your own business problems while solving other businesses' problems. You can't do it in a vacuum. And by trying to do it in a vacuum, you're going to miss out on a lot. So your own iterative process has brought you to a point where you look at business differently than you did when you started six years ago, right?
Yeah,
Isn't
yeah,
that
I've
crazy?
changed and I take pride in the fact that I can say I've evolved and adapted and learning every project I do. Like I try to ask clients at the end of a project, what worked, what didn't, is there anything I could do differently next time? And always be following my own advice, like incorporating feedback and improving it every single round.
I love that. Take pride in adaptation. That's a pretty good, solid statement. And here's the funny thing, Elizabeth, I would be interested to learn how many CEOs or owners of small businesses are proud of the adaptations they've gone through, or do they fear being fear having to adopt something and they're missing the boat, right? They're just, this is the way we've always done it. This is the way we're always going to do it. Oh, okay, but then the marketplace has just passed you by. Why are you not changing what you do, right? All
Yeah,
this.
my
Go ahead.
Oh, my dad used to, back when I was in high school, every time I'd be like, oh, I want to buy this, I want to do that. My dad would always really drill me, like, why? And I think he really trained me to always make intentional decisions and be able to justify them. And yeah, that carries through to today.
Well, making intentional decisions is something that we all should strive to do because we're doing the diligence before we even make the decision. Okay. Do you want vanilla or chocolate ice cream? Easy. I can make that decision all day long, right? Do I want to buy this car or do I not want to buy this car? Those are simple, but different extremes, right? What business decision am I going to make about investing in a brand new building or investing in a brand new production line? What am I going to do? So there's thought that needs to go through in every decision, and there should be a comparative measure between what is actually needed to be decided and how much information you need to make that decision.
That's true, and how much evolution is needed. So, one of
Yeah.
the red flags that comes up a lot when I work with nonprofits is there's this phrase called mission drift that people will
Mhm.
say, oh, what you're saying is outside of what we do. So, that's a great idea, but another organization should be doing it. And I am increasingly seeing the phrase mission drift being applied as an excuse when it's actually a fear of change and what the idea, the innovation that was proposed was actually evolving to be more relevant for your
Mhm.
consumers.
Yeah. I had a conversation with somebody today, and I think this applies, but think about the difference between Blockbuster Video and Netflix. Okay. One was you walked into the store, got your movie, and you walked out. The other one, you mailed in what you wanted and they mailed it to you. What's the difference between Netflix and Blockbuster today?
Well,
Netflix made
one,
a huge pivot and their mission drifted drastically. Why? Because in order for them to stay afloat, they realized this mail-in movie thing ain't gonna last, right? So, okay, so sometimes mission drift, I get it. If your vision and mission is this, you don't want to change it. But if through iterative design and understanding of what the problems are, you need to make a change, and the change is specifically designed to make you better. Why would you be afraid of that change, right? And it's interesting because, again, I'm going to go back to your example on Peace Corps because it's so telling of what needs to be learned. Everybody knows how to do their farming, but if you ask the right questions and learn more information, you can realize, we could change this whole economy right now by adding some trees, filter the water, get better water. Two, we're going to plant trees to give shade to coffee, which will grow better, and we can sell it for a higher price point. But if nobody took the time to research and figure out what's going on, they'd still be struggling to figure out why their little tribe isn't doing well, right? So figuring out what you need to learn is more important, or just as important, what you already learned or already know, right?
yeah, which
All right.
all comes back to asking the right questions.
And I think that's the cornerstone of every business right now is struggling to know what question to ask. It doesn't matter, just ask questions to figure out what you need to figure out, and you'll iterate yourself into what is necessary. But if you're not asking any questions, man, you're going to be struggling, right? If you always do things the way you've always done things, all right, well then go hang your shingle right next to the blockbuster because everybody else is moving forward, right? That's how it has to go. I want to ask you, what is the number one business lesson that you've learned or you believe should be learned by somebody that is starting out or a couple years into their business?
Be generous with
Oh,
yourself and others.
okay.
I I broke my ankle my second year in business. And I had just started what at that time was my biggest contract ever. And it had a lot of in person, and I couldn't drive. And so I was really afraid I was going to fail the contract. Now, in that case, I lucked out and they switched the order. So I was able to do the virtual stuff first and move the in person for later. But I realized that I was going to need to build a team. And so I have a bench of vetted subcontractors who I've worked with before, who I know they do high quality value line work. So I have like government relations policy people. I have another ag economist I do who's more hardcore on the ag side. I have a guy who does like trust building and accessibility with communities. I have a woman, two women who do marketing and communications. And so um, where generosity comes in is I I'll be transparent here. Sometimes I split my contract in half and I give half to some of my partners.
Mhm.
And yeah, in the short term, it means I get less money, but I've built a lot of trust with these people that I work with. They're very loyal to me. They pay it forward and bring me into their work. And so my bench of like, I have about 7 subcontractors I work with each year. They have never let me down. They are the
I
highest
love that.
work ethic people, amazing. But I had to apply the same language to myself. For a while, I was stingy. And, when you're starting in consulting and I have a low overhead business, I didn't want to spend on the conferences. And I also had to realize, Elizabeth, you're an economist. You know that investing is worth it. And so also spending on myself and betting on myself has really paid off as well.
I love that. There's so many different nuances to that comment that applies to any business. Doesn't have to be an economist or it doesn't have to be what you're doing. But the idea of being generous with yourself and others, man, you're really asking other people to help you out. And in turn, I'm going to help you out. So this network of collaborators that you've built, they know, like, and trust you. Perfect. But the one thing that you made comment to, I really thought was cool. They're loyal to you as you are loyal to them, and they bring you into their world as much as you brought them into yours. And for me, that is something that not that everybody needs to work off a barter system, but I think there needs to be more collaboration around the idea of I will help you if you help me, not because I'm expecting it, but because what I did was really good work. And you're going to want to continue working with me. So then you bring me into your world. And that is, to me, a really profound way of not only marketing yourself, but keeping business relationships exactly where they should be. That is growing and being iterative over the course of time, right? Because they always need to change and develop and grow from one perspective or another. So thank you for sharing that. That's really good stuff. A couple other things. I love to ask this question all the time. So I'm curious to learn from you. If I were to put you in a time machine and send you back to meet 18-year-old Elizabeth, what would that conversation look and sound like?
Oh gosh, I've thought about this before. Let's see if I can remember some of the ideas I've had. Um, I think if you're going back to 18-year-old me, I was very stressed throughout college and I always thought I was doing everything wrong. And I thought somehow I got college wrong. And so I wish that I knew that everyone struggled and everyone gets stressed during college.
Mhm.
And, it turned out I actually was doing it right because I was always showing up and I was doing things before I knew how to do it well. I was learning by doing. And I've just kind of always done that. And it's become a thing, but I think I would have had more confidence that I wasn't doing it wrong, but that actually is the right way to do it. You learn by doing, you do it before you're good, and you just keep showing up. And that's like 90% of how I've succeeded in life.
Elizabeth, again, I think you've solved a lot of problems with people, right? Don't stress out so much. Going to be okay. To show up, learn what you need to learn, do what you need to do while you're learning, and before you know it, you're an expert. If you can do that, again, you're going to solve a lot of worlds and a lot of business problems. So I think you got it. This has been great.
Thank
I
you.
want to thank you for being on the show. It's been an amazing conversation. There's so many nuggets. I've gotten so many different notes and stuff. So I appreciate your time. Any final last words you want the audience to know?
Um, when you talk to communities to make sure your work is relevant to the communities with which you work, you do have to listen to some of the feedback because otherwise
Okay.
it comes across as performative. You do not need to accept all the feedback. Some of it's going to be irrelevant for you, but if you can make a commitment to taking one or two things that the community said incorporate it into your work, and then sharing back with the community how you use their feedback. That's how you build trust.
Oh, I love that. Okay. That's good to know because you are gathering a ton of information, which you do. But now that you've given the twist on it is, all right, let's listen to what people are saying and then let's share it back so we know that what we've done and what we've gathered is accurate. That's how we
Mm,
build trust. That's huge.
right.
That's a really good lesson. Thank you for that.
Hmm.
Oh, God, this has been great. I want to say thank you and I appreciate you being here. All the information to get a hold of Elizabeth will be in the description down below. So please reach out to Elizabeth when you get a chance. And we'll see everybody on the next episode of the Legacy Leaders. Bye now.